And you may not have the discipline or the maturity to identify as your personal weakness and not that these concepts are failing. In the beginning, it's going to be easy for you when you don't do something right. Oh, it's this that happened to me. It's that happened to me. It's because he didn't give me a clear idea how to use this. Well, if that's true, you should not have been taking any trades with it. You have to be completely 100% responsible. That's what a trader that's consistently profitable is. They own everything they do, the bad and the good. And they're not influenced by anything outside of them, whether it be another influencer online, another trader, somebody out there that seems to be doing better than you. And you'll develop these little mental challenges that you can be right more than someone else. And then your trading becomes a pursuit of, again, what? Being right. When being right is not what we're trying to do. It's a derivative of doing the right things, but our reasoning or the catalyst for us getting in the trade is not on the basis of being able to say, I'm right. I'm going to say that again so that way you understand what I'm referring to, because it's easy to hear it and go in one ear out the other. When we start trading, even in demo, more so when you're trading with live funds, you are pursuing the pleasure, the stimuli that comes with being right. That feel-good hormone that gets released. It reminds you that if this was real, you'd made that much money. And you don't want to go into your development with that mindset, because you're pursuing the end result being on the basis of you being right. And if your focus is always about being right and not the process, what are you really doing? You're teaching yourself to adhere to something on the basis of win or fail. And now you've elevated the outcome to a level of critical. It's critical for you to be right, because you won't be prepared mentally to accept the fact that that one didn't work. And every single time I blew an account, it started right then, right at that moment, where I had a trade idea, I put the trade on, it looked good, and then ultimately ran against me on my stop. Okay. When I first was learning, it felt like the weight of the world was coming down on me. It felt like I'm afraid to take the next trade because that one didn't work out for me. And the number one reason why you're fearing to take the next trade after a losing trade is because you're wrestling with the impulsiveness to want to trade with a larger size, and your conscience is telling you, don't do it. And you need to listen to it. Don't. In fact, it's better for you, if you're new, to just completely stop for the day. Give yourself time to process that incorrect trade result. So that way you can desensitize yourself from the pursuit of being right. Because if you're trying to do your trades with the goal in mind that I'm going to be right, it's going to go to my target, it's going to go where I said it was going to go, versus I'm trading this model, I'm trading with this approach, and I'm submitting myself to this very thing here. Nothing else. I'm not bringing anything else into it. I'm not letting anyone else influence my following of this logic. Come hell or high water, whatever the results are, I'm going to log it, and then I'm going to follow that model again when the setup forms it again, whether it be later today or another day. And you will find that you will get to this point where no longer are you pursuing being right, because it's no longer enough. It's not going to be satisfying for you to just be right. You're going to be looking to do what? Be more precise, more accurate, less drawdown, less heat on your trades when you put them on. More confident to hold for not your first scale out profit. Your first profit now would be your typical second partial. That's how you graduate into that point of holding for a full pull. You just can't quit cold turkey and say, okay, I'm not going to do any partials anymore. I'm just going to go straight in and get all my targets. And then what happens is, invariably, you're going to have trades where this is for you, Pat. I watch your streams and I hear how you wrestle with when you want to put a runner on, and you're met with this, and the way you overcome and get over it and power through it is you don't worry about the result. Okay, when you're live streaming, you're talking about what you endured, and you're amplifying that. And it may be entertaining, it may be for you to discharge it, vent, and you think you're releasing it, but your subconscious is holding on to it. And once that happens and it's anchored to your subconscious, it'll have an impact on your next trade. You'll see the trade, you think, okay, I'm going to hold for that 20 handle run. But what happens is when you get to that first 5 or 10, that little voice inside you says, remember when we held for this the last time? Do you remember what it felt like when it didn't let us get our full target, but we had 19 handles? We didn't get to 20. Right now you have 10. And you're going to be thinking, like a deer in headlights, what do I do? What do I do? Because if I'm wrong by not getting out right now, I'm going to regret that. It's going to be more remorse. But if I hold and it moves to my profit objective, then I'm right. I'm right. Damn it, I'm right. I did what I was supposed to do. It went to my target. I'm done. I did it. I slayed it. But even if it gets to that target, you're going to be remembering how painful it was to hold on to that. Because back at the first stage of you feeling that internal voice, that conscience talking to you saying, I'm a little uncomfortable right now. I'm afraid it's going to turn on me. You know what the easiest solution is right there? It's the easiest thing in the world, but you're not going to want to do it. It's going to feel like the most asinine thing to be doing at that moment. Because everybody out there that's not profitable, that doesn't show themselves executing trades, but they want to give people advice. Can't call anything live, but they want to give you advice. They'll say, you have to push your edge. You have to stick to convictions. It's your target or nothing. What I'm saying is when you get that point in a trade where you're feeling the weight of it. Oh, do I hold? What do I do? What should I move my stop loss? When you start worrying, if you start feeling uncomfortable and it feels like you're juggling. Do I close it? Do I hold it? Do I move my stop? Do I move my stop back? Did I move it too soon? As soon as your mind enters that, at that very moment, you have lost the plot. You must take half the trade off. But Michael, what if your self-doubt isn't a bad thing? It's just the fact that you have grown in your understanding and your experience, and you've been here before, and the trader in you is trying to listen to the analyst that's warning you, hey, we're in troubled waters right now. Yeah, it could go to our target. It could do that. But protocol says this is what we do. Standard operating procedure. SOPs, okay? Standard operating procedure says when the shit starts to get deep, take something off. How much, ICT? Half. You're divorcing the trade, but you're getting something out of it. A runner's still there, but you're getting half off. Now you've banked half. If it comes back against you and stopped you out at your trailed stop loss, or if you were fickle about doing anything, just keeping your stop at original, it won't take you to a loss. You're not worrying about it. But if you wrestle with that and you're in that troubled water area where you're thinking about being right, you have lost the plot about the trade. You don't know you won't be able to realign yourself. And anybody that says, well, you can just, take a step out, get a cigarette break, go get a shot of liquid courage, go to the gym and just submit to it, see whatever happens. What's going to happen is you're going to stress. And that stressful endeavor that you're placing yourself through, you're teaching yourself to be fearful. And it's unnecessary. You don't need to do that. The way you master yourself, the way you conquer yourself and wrangle in these concerns about being right, you remove risk, because that's the underlying thing. See, it's not a matter of, can it get to my target? Of course it could. It could go way beyond what you were targeting. And it could come back on your stop. And it could just consolidate where it's at. All those things are possible. But when the mind starts getting bogged down with the concerns of needing to be right, because you will punish yourself mentally if you do anything that leads to either stopped out or not getting to target. Because at that moment, here's what you don't realize, and this is what you need to be writing down in your journal. As soon as you get to that point where you're in troubled waters, and you're now taking more attention to, what do I do? What do I do? If you're asking yourself, what do I do? And it's becoming physical, like your breathing increases, the rate of your inhalations. Maybe you're getting heart palpitations, feeling dizzy, feeling anxious, feeling nervous. The answer to that is take half off. And what that does, it allows your mind to reset. You've paid yourself. Who cares if it comes back and stops you out? Who cares if it fails to get to your target? You paid yourself. The analyst is inside of you, maybe picking up on things that you've learned, but you're not registering that because you're not able to see growth like that initially until you go through these experiments of putting the task, submitting to the process, and then getting out there and seeing how you deal with it. And the analyst inside of you that's seen these things before is trying to tell you, hey, you're not ready for this. It might go there. Yes, it might go to your full target. Absolutely. But right now, here's the standard operating procedure. As soon as we start getting nervous and we lose sight of the plot, the way we regain that clarity, take half of the position off. Okay, Michael, what happens if I am only holding one contract and there's no way for me to take a partial off? You close the trade. That's it. But what if it turns against you? How are you going to deal with that? You're going to beat yourself up. You know you will. And to sit here and lie and say that you wouldn't, you're fooling no one. First and foremost, you're not fooling yourself. You have to guard your mind. You have to preserve that clarity. Once you gain it and you desensitize yourself to the outcome, you're not pursuing right. You're pursuing following your model. Those rules, if they're sound in their logic, they will preserve you if you're able to listen to the analyst in you. But if that analyst is trying to warn you that, listen, buddy, you got out of the chair and the gambler has slip-seated with you. You think you're driving, but you're not. You're riding shotgun with Retail Rick. And he's had a little too much to drink on St. Patty's Day. And it looks like he's aiming for the next fucking tree. So what are you going to do? Ask for the keys. You got to take that wheel back. How does that happen? Take half the trade off. And if you can't take a half, then you close the trade. And then you congratulate yourself. You give yourself positive self-talk that you identified that you were in troubled waters. You lost sight of what you were doing. And now it became an emotional roller coaster, which turns into a psychological arm wrestling match with you being and pursuing right. I was right. And what will happen is when you close the trade or take half off, one of two things are going to happen. It's going to stop you out and you'll feel what? Good. You'll feel good that you did that. But some of you won't feel good about that because you'll be thinking, I should have took everything off and I would have had a bigger profit. What are you doing there? Pursuing being right. Instead of saying, I took half off, it came back and stopped me out on the remaining portion, whether it was at break even or in profit, matters not. You're going to go to the calculator and say, this is what I had on the trade right when I felt like that. I should have did this. That's not how you grow. That's how you poison your perspective. You create and foster anxiety, performance anxiety specifically, because you're measuring every decision and placing so much emphasis on the outcome and it needing to be right. You don't realize you're putting yourself in this mental prison. You can't work efficiently in these markets where you're constantly placing so many limitations on you, placing all this unnecessary weight on your shoulders that you have to be right all the time. You don't have to be right. You don't have to be right. You have to follow a sound model and stick to that. And as a derivative, a default, as a consequence to doing that, you will see results. And those results need to be completely detached from emotion or psychological need, the necessity to be right. And it sounds hard. It sounds almost impossible right now, especially if you're new. But those of you that have gone through these experiences because you've traded with real money or funded account, and you got out there and you realized you knew exactly what you were feeling. It was a reminder that you did this too soon. But hey, we're here now. We are here. We showed up. Now we're going to show out. And unfortunately, you end up losing your funded account or you blow your account because you'll let that one losing trade do what? Take you completely out of the game. Now you have to do something bigger, much more monumental, because you have to get a feel-good moment. And you'll over-leverage on the next trade, or you won't have a stop loss on because you want to be right. And you lose all clarity and you think that what you're doing in that next trade is going to pan out. You just have to submit to more drawdown, more time holding on to it. And what is happening is this: you are now holding on to a losing trade that you will not identify as, but you're going to be using the logic of your model, which is hold on to your runner. But because you took your eye off of the process of following that model, you're now applying part of the logic that you're using in trading, but you're holding on to the losing trade. You're submitting yourself to that trade, even though it's warning you and telling you, the analyst is talking to you, this is wrong. You know it's wrong, but you won't close it.